George Bernard Shaw, you know the playwright, said that alcohol was the anesthetic by which we endure the operation of life. When COVID hit, it became the anesthesia of choice for my 83-year-old neighbor Margaret. She lived in the apartment across from mine. I went over there every day with my obscenely large cup of coffee. It was more like a bowl than a cup. American size, pandemic size, really. Margie and I, we would sit on the balcony and she would talk my ear off about the war. Some war. One of the wars. I don't remember which. There have been so many. Poor Margaret. She could not leave the house. Not because of her old age, but on account of the lockdown. She used to go to the Irish pub across the street every single day. I mean, day as in late morning, early afternoon. She would order just one beer. She called it her spoon of sugar. Not much of a drinker back then. She went for the company. Sadly, when the pandemic hit, she took to drinking alone. And a lot. See, I could not partake in the celebratory drinking. That's what she called it. I'm a Muslim, and well, we don't drink. It's prohibited. But Margaret wouldn't buy my noble excuses.
Mormons are not supposed to drink coffee either, but here you are, chugging away a pot full of caffeine every day, she'd say to me. I am Muslim, not Mormon, I tried to explain.
But it did make me wonder how anyone could survive the pandemic without coffee. In the hierarchy of sins, I lost to the Mormons. And Margaret lost to me. I had no problem with Margaret's drinking. It seemed like the right thing to do, considering the circumstances.
But I think Margaret felt judged. What the hell's wrong with you Mormons, she'd say. I am Muslim, not Mormon, I'd tell her for the millionth time. Muslim, Mormon, Mexican, who gives a flying fig? We're all just human. And in a crisis like this, we're called to be nothing but human. God, God, God. Well, if you can hold on to God with a thought in times like these, just a thought, well, then you're good to go. So just let go for Christ's sake.
This was her way of trying to convince me that I ought to start drinking. You know, like living a little. Because life was hard. And during hard times, one ought to be human, which means fallible and weak.
There are no saints in times of tribulation, she'd say. Only haters acting out in the guise of virtue.
The hardship, of course, was not just the pandemic. Margaret had just lost her only son to cancer. And I had lost my husband, my job. My husband to a hijabi Instagram influencer. And my job to COVID. The hardship was real. There was no sin in coping, she'd say. But I knew that if I took just one sip, it would be all downhill for me. That proverbial red line, once crossed, well, there was no going back. I tried to explain this to Mark. I tried to tell her that red lines are different for everyone. One man's sin is another man's salvation. But Margaret wouldn't buy it.
Oh, just stop with your philosophical masturbation. Be fucking human for once. Bite into the forbidden fruit. There's no such thing as free will without at least one act of defiance. Don't you Mormons know about Adam and Eve? When the religious arguments didn't work, I just kept philosophizing. Listen, Marge, I would say. I'm an Arab. I was born intoxicated. I have 1,400 years of wine running through my veins. When Arabs drink, they do it to get sober. I don't want to be sober right now. I'm saving all my drinking for better times. I'll be dead by then, she'd say. And that was not funny.
Yes. Those were hard times. The pandemic, the loss of income, the broken relationships, the loss of life. It was hard. But it was also surreal, in a good way. It was a moment in history when we had to listen. The world had to interrogate itself the way me and Marge interrogated each other. What had we done to the earth? to one another, the hate, the violence. We forgot what it meant to be human, to be strong enough to admit how weak we are, and how much we need each other. My only regret wasn't standing my ground. Integrity can ruin your life. I read that in a book once. Now I get it. I mean, what would have been the harm? I could have done it, or at least faked it. I think God would have approved of my loving gesture, my show of humanity. Marge would drink every day and then feel bad about it. And there I was, on some kind of moral high ground. I think I made her feel bad. And now I feel bad for not being bad. I didn't have enough perspective back then. I was young and stupid. Too stupid to act stupid, which would have been the smart thing to do, considering the circumstances. Context is everything.
I took myself way too seriously. It was the only way to keep from disintegrating. I had to hold on to something. I mean, Margie had the wisdom of age to help her cope. No sin in coping. It's been 10 years now, and a lot has changed. I'm remarried. I have a daughter, Maryam Margaret Abduraouf. And I cope constructively through prayer and reading and creative aspirations. Look what I got. I know, right? We're finally going to have a proper toast. The stuff is supposed to be the best. That's what the lady at the liquor store told me. It's called Pinot Grigio, or something like that. Margie, you were right. Sacrificing one's life to make a point is to miss the point altogether. Happy anniversary. This stuff tastes like shit. It must be spoiled. That lady sold me old wine. Or maybe this is what wine actually tastes like. How do people drink this crap? I don't get it. Well, at least I did it. I bit into the forbidden fruit. Morality has no meaning without choice. And there can be no choice without at least one act of defiance. My one act of defiance. And I wanted to do it with you. Go. Hey, Margie. How are you feeling? Yep, I'm on my way. Just visiting Bespous. Yeah, my cat Bespous. Remember him? I could have never survived that pandemic without him. It's our 10th anniversary. Hey, Marge, I was wondering, maybe we can have that drink. You know, a drink. Okay. You're right. I better not. You're right. You're always right. I just wanted you to know that I'm here for you. That's all. See you soon.